Now, one of President Biden's cabinet members has been one of the most in-demand campaign surrogates for Democrats this election cycle. He's made more than a half dozen trips to states across the U.S. in recent months. He joins us now, and we should point out that Pete Buttigieg is doing so in his personal capacity, not as Transportation Secretary today, but as Citizen Pete, who, of course, is a popular Democrat. I heard you again today, Secretary Buttigieg, say in Nevada that this is a cost of living election. Did your party understand that soon enough and pivot appropriately, or is that contributing to why candidates all across the country may end up coming short on Tuesday?
I think one reason we're already doing much better than the norm for a party that has the White House going into a midterm is because Americans agree with us on economic issues as well as social issues. Look, here in Nevada and everywhere I've been campaigning, voters are upset, of course, that Republicans took away a woman's right to choose and are pushing hard for even more extreme national and state level abortion bans. But that doesn't make it any less important to talk at the same time about the economy. The economy is on everybody's minds, and that's exactly why we should not follow the Republican approach of dismantling Social Security at a time like this where cost of living is high. Folks are upset about gas prices. Here in Nevada, though, the Republican Senate nominee, Adam Laxalt, has worked at a law firm that defends big oil and has been defending big oil on the campaign trail. So I think we have a very, very strong message on economics. We shouldn't be afraid to come out swinging with it, even while we're also reminding voters about the importance of democracy, speaking to voters' concerns about extremism on the right, and again, stressing that we will be the ones to protect a woman's right to choose.
You've called the president's litany of accomplishments on COVID rescue, the Inflation Reduction Act, infrastructure, the, quote, big deal. But given that polls continue to show a majority of Americans don't think the president has done enough on the economy, and President and Democrats going to be, do you think they're going to be rewarded by voters for doing that work? And perhaps should Democrats have leaned a little more into the infrastructure bill, especially in reminding voters what it is Democrats had gotten done over the last year and a half or so?
Well, I do think so much has been achieved that it can actually be hard to keep track of it. That's why I'm calling it the big deal. You know, FDR had the New Deal. Teddy Roosevelt had the Square Deal. You can add all of these things up. They are a big deal, which is why I like to call them the big deal. The infrastructure legislation that, of course, is improving everything from transportation to water quality to energy infrastructure and the grid and internet access in our country, but also the Inflation Reduction Act, which represents the most significant climate legislation ever passed by any country ever. It also represents an important step in the global fight against inflation, which is a challenge everywhere in the developed world. But part of what we're doing to deal with it is steps, widely popular steps, I might add, like ensuring that we cut the price of insulin to $35 a month for people on Medicare. And I think it's important to emphasize that, you know, the only reason we don't have a $35 a month cap on insulin for everybody, Medicare or not, is because Republicans blocked it. So it's a good example of what could be achieved if we were able to expand our majorities in the Senate and in the House. I think we do need to continue emphasizing what's been achieved while also talking about the road ahead and not just looking at what we've done in the last couple of years, but what's next.
But you do politics well. You know that talking about things in the abstract or things that are coming in the future is tricky for voters who are often justifiably focused on the right now, right? They're thinking about what's right in front of them, what's going on. I've heard you and other Democrats say this. Inflation in this country isn't as bad as it is in somewhere like Germany. But you also know, because you traveled the country and you spent a lot of time in places like Nevada, that voters don't care about what's going on in Europe. They care about what's going on right here in this country. And repeatedly, the polling has shown they think the economy is in bad shape. They're sick and tired of paying high prices. Why continue to make that kind of argument that may or may not work?
Well, look, I think all of these arguments fit together. Look, on one hand, you've got an economy where unemployment is below 4%. That is a huge, huge deal. Unemployment has rarely been this low in recorded history. On the other hand, we have this battle against inflation. And I think it's worth pointing out that this is a global fight against inflation. But you're right. Most important to talk about the difference between what we want, what we are doing about it here, and what the Republican Party has proposed, right? They have promised to put Social Security on the chopping block, and this is one of those times that I believe them. They have said that they would put the entire economy at risk by forcing a showdown over the debt limit, risking default and an economic catastrophe in order to force some kind of cuts or changes to Social Security and Medicare. Those are everyday bread and butter in your face concrete issues. Now, I could go on all day, and sometimes I do, about philosophical issues of democracy and how we stay a democracy. But when it comes down to the dollars and cents piece, I think right there we have a winning message, because this idea of just constant tax cuts for the wealthy is not only a mistake, in my view, from a policy perspective, but on the wrong side of what most Americans believe we ought to do.
Let me ask you real quick. Are you committed to serving the Biden administration for another 2 years, or do you have other plans?
Well, I serve at the pleasure of the president, but I'm excited to do this job for as long as he'll have me. It's demanding. It's something I'm proud to be part of, and I'm proud to serve on this president's team.
So if he wants to give you a promotion to a different cabinet seat, you would consider that?
Look, that's literally above my pay grade.
Yeah.
All I'll say is that we're on the official side. I'm doing everything I can to do a good job, and today I'm taking a day away from that to volunteer for something I think is incredibly important, which is to get great Democrats elected. I feel like on most of the issues, most Americans agree with us, but it doesn't count unless people actually get out there and vote. And so my focus until the bell rings tomorrow is to do everything I can to encourage people to do just that.
Well, we thank you for taking some time. Pete Buttigieg, who today is campaigning for fellow Democrats, but otherwise is transportation secretary. We'll see you soon.
Thanks very much.
Take care.